There are some people, life happens, they get knocked down, and they become a victim of their experiences, of their circumstances. And then there are some people, life happens, and they become a hero of their journey by getting back up, conquering their situation, and not letting it become their only story. And today I am joined by the latter. I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Elliott Paulson. Welcome to the Don't Recycle Project.
Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I met Elliott actually through IG, and I just came across your page, and you're just like such a light. You're sharing information, and then I realized that you had a journey with, you're sober and you overcame certain substances, and I just wanted to bring you on so that you could help me tell the people what it's like to overcome, those kind of things, and how your journey's been, and just what that experience has been like for you. So welcome to the Don't Recycle Project.
Thank you. Where should I begin?
Let's talk about, I guess we can go back to like growing up. Like did you, what was home life like? Obviously I don't need you don't have to
Sure.
go fully in detail, but like, was like substance abuse something that you watched growing up, or like how did like that become something that you struggled with at one point?
So no, my parents are not in recovery, or they do not use substances or anything like that. What was apparent is that I always felt like I was lacking something. And it just so happens that drugs and alcohol remedy that feeling really well. And, people in recovery, they kind of, even before they take that first drink, before they like use that first time, it's almost like this like innate understanding of just knowing that that thing over there is what I want. And I feel like that's going to work for me.
Yeah.
Right. But before that, like one of my first memories is running away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like so I'm from New Jersey, and I had like half an acre of like forest and stuff as a backyard. Just it was just really woods.
Okay.
And I just remember, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, like snapping into consciousness, like running away.
Wow.
At least that's one of my first memories, and that kind of,
That's where it all started.
Yeah, and it's a really good, like, literal metaphor for kind of how I would live my life.
Running away.
Yeah, running away.
I can relate so much to that, but for me, I didn't like touch alcohol. It was when I was going through a divorce is when I was raised in church
Me too.
and very religious background. So I was just very like a by the book, good girl, for what I was raised to be. And then the divorce is kind of what like led me to look for other things, but I didn't realize that's what was happening in the moment. It was like a numbing. Like I wanted to numb something. I didn't really know that I was doing that. It came off as partying and just being social, even though I was being social every day.
Sure, yeah.
So that's how it started for me. And then, it just spiraled from there. Next thing you know, I'm, like I said, being social every day and calling it, it didn't seem as bad because everyone that was around me was also being social. We're just partying, having fun is what it looked like. But really, we were all just masking our issues. You know what I mean?
It kind of had the same premise as your using career, which was this thing that is like a social lubricant is making me feel a part of, right? That's like really what drinking is and is used for.
Right.
Right. Like, let's all go get a drink.
Right.
Hey, you want to come over and smoke?
Right.
Like,
right.
And you can do that. Like, there are non-substance-based things that you could do. Hey, you want to go watch a movie? You want to go for a hike? Right. It just so happens that like drugs and alcohol and that type of stuff, it soothes the soul.
Do you feel like, as far as like your friend group at the time when do you feel like it was like a process of like mourning when you had to like, when you finally woke up and realized, okay, I have a problem and I have to do better? And did it require you to leave a lot of people behind in like different environments?
For sure.
Yeah.
Like not even like psychologically, like leave them behind, but actually like I went to treatment. Like, so I actually left them behind.
Yeah.
When I was 18, I moved out here to go to school.
Okay.
And so I went to I went to North County, San Diego Community College. And one of the first days there, some dude was like, "Hey, bro, you want some Xanax?" And like, I was off and running.
Wow.
And so like, I came out here to go to school, but in the whole semester, I maybe went to class like 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
And so then that just progressed and escalated, and I was just
that was like the gateway to
I mean,
to everything else almost.
Yeah, I was already like drinking and using like in high school and stuff like that, but I didn't have so much freedom since I was living with my parents. And then also like I was never like a popular kid. I was kind of like always like on the outskirts. And so like I was never the kid like with like the fifth of Jack. Or I was never the plug. Yeah. You know? And so when I came out here and everything was so accessible to me, I finally felt like
Cali will do it. Cali has everything. Like everything.
It's like a candy store. So I'm like, cool, now I can actually go get what I want, and I can finally do what I felt like would make me whole. Right. And like, it just so happens that like what those things were also relieved my pain. So it's like twofold. I feel cool because now I'm like smoking, drinking, chilling with people. And now I also don't feel like garbage about myself.
It's funny how the self-love really plays a big part in like what you're willing to try and what you are allowing yourself to be. Like if that kid with the Xanax would have came up to you and you had like a high self-esteem about yourself at that time, you would have been like,
I've been like, you're tripping.
Get out of here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why would you offer me that?
Right.
But when you're like, you know, vulnerable in a way, like whether it's your self-esteem or just how you view yourself and you're looking for a way to fit in, it just seems like you're just like wide open.
Yeah.
To whatever. Yeah, that's the scary part.
Yeah. My journey of recovery didn't really begin until a couple times after going to treatment, after I lived in my car for a couple months. And I like had like a job here and there. I would like enroll in like Orange Coast College and like go to a class. I was still getting high, but I never saw like drugs and alcohol being the like cause of dysfunction.
I think it's crazy that media, like I feel like media has a big part in how like we consume, like in movies it's depicted like if you had a long day and you're stressed out, go have a drink with your friends. Absolutely. Or if you're, you know, it's just like it's just put in our face to be like this go-to or whatever your substance is. It just seems to be like this, just, you know, just take the load off and have a drink, but it's a fine line between healthy and unhealthy, you know?
Yeah, I see that a lot with like smoking cigarettes.
Right.
It was really hard for me to quit smoking because even when I was sober and stuff like that, those feelings of like less than or wanting to be a part of would crop up. And I would smoke a cigarette to fulfill a feeling of a part of in fantasy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like what I mean by that is like my like idols are like Keith Richards, Hunter S. Thompson.
You see them with the cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. You see them smoking.
Like, I'm like these guys, right? Even though I'm like on my back porch, no one's around. Yeah. Right. Wow. Yeah. And I feel like that's like why a lot of people like drink and use and like I have heard that the progression of drinking and alcoholism and drug addiction looks a lot like this. It looks like it starts with I'm drinking with a bunch of friends and we're going out, we're socializing, we're chilling, and it's a good time. We're at somewhere, we're at a party, we're at the club, right? And then now you're just chilling at the homie's house. Now it's like 4 or 5 people and you're chilling, right? It got smaller.
Right. It got smaller. And now you're chilling with like 2 or 3 people and like just people who like use like you or get high like you or drink like you, right? And then it's just you in the kitchen. And then it's just you in your bed.
I think that's the moment when it's like, okay, I have a problem. Yeah. This is no longer like something that is just a social or just something fun. Like this is me by myself. You know, like when was that moment for you? Like when you were like, okay, this is the moment that I need to like make a change.
Yeah, for sure. what it actually looked like was I was smoking a cigarette, withdrawing on my parents' porch in New Jersey, just being like, what, like, this is my life. And like, I had like I said, tried going to school, and like, I knew that there are steps to take to like improve your life. And I had taken a couple of those steps on like the staircase to success and like happiness and everything. So I knew that was there. And so when I was like smoking a cigarette, being like, I owed everybody money, and I was broke, and I hated living at home, and I knew all these things were out there for me to experience. It was like this like outside voice spoke to me in my own voice.
Oh, wow.
Being like, I just remember it was just like, is this all that you want for yourself? And I just remember being like, yo, like, this is not all that I
There's
can.
more.
Yeah, there's more. And so then I like asked my parents to go to treatment. I was like, I need to, I don't know what to do. So I'd gone to treatment a couple times before. So I was like, yo, like, I need to get sober. Like, I need to do something. And so I want to say, like, the irony is the next day I was like, I don't want to go.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't as like black and white as like you flicking on the light switch and you're like, now I'm ready.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so like, it was like for sure like a window of opportunity. And like my mom just like held me accountable to what I said. She was like, and she was done. She was like, you're getting in the car. I'm driving you, like, because I was resistant the next morning. Wow. And for whatever reason, I was like, yeah, I'm down. Like, sure, let's do it.
I was listening to another podcast, and the guy, he was an overcomer of his own substance abuse. And he was just saying how his parents were like, we love you, but we cannot like continue to like watch you just completely destroy yourself. So we'll be here when you're ready for like treatment. But until then, we have to like disconnect all access from you. And I'm like, that has to be like tough. Like like your family members, and just like, you're not the only one, like, suffering when you're going through that. It's like really tough on the people who have to watch you, the ones that love you, watching you like literally just like destroy yourself.
Yeah. I hear that when I see my potential in myself, when I see your potential. So when I see you falling short of what I know that you could be doing, it's almost like I reflect on myself and I think, man, like, what am I doing? Right. Like, how am I someone who's showing love, compassion, and kindness to my family member, my friend, whomever? Right. How am I being that type of person when I'm enabling you? Right. And that's why I feel like it just hurts so much. Yeah. Because I know that I owe it to myself to uphold my morals and values, because I know who you can be. Right. And I'm not holding you to that standard. Right. When I'm enabling. Right. Exactly. It's tough. It's not, I have a couple of family members who, you see them today and you can just see the effects of the drugs and of just like the years of, abuse on their own selves. And it's sad to watch, because I know they had, so many people who were wanting to help, but it's like, how do you help, how do you help someone who doesn't want to really help themselves? Because it is a choice that you had to say, okay, even though your mom made you to a certain extent, but you had to still choose to get in that car to go say, okay, I'm going to, commit to this and do better for myself. Yeah, there's a saying that is, you're not going to change until the pain of change becomes greater than the pain of staying the same. Right. And a lot of people, like drugs and alcohol, people keep doing them because they work. Right. It's not like me getting high is not working and that's why I'm doing it. Right. And the thing is that, like, what I'm coming to realize is, like, I've known drugs and alcohol are but a symptom, right? Like, I'm using drugs and alcohol because of fill in the blank, right? We all have this, whatever that, childhood, life experience, right? And so now I'm using this thing to resolve those feelings, right? But what I'm coming to learn now is that it's not those feelings that, if I addressed, would resolve my substance abuse and drug use and self-harm and all these other things. It's if I addressed my feelings around avoiding looking at those feelings, because that's where I have fear. That's where I have anxiety. Like I can say I'm insecure. I'm a failure.
Right.
I haven't like lived up to what I know that I could.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say that, right? And so now I'm going to go drink. But it's really hard to look at yourself and feel the feelings of why are you a failure? Why do you feel like you haven't lived up to this? And then you're like, I'm not going to talk about this.
Right. It's very uncomfortable.
Right. And that's really what I feel like people run from, because many times like people are drinking and using and someone will come up to them and say, you could do so much better. You had so much potential. Like, what are you doing to yourself? And this person says, I know. And what they're neglecting to experience is their feelings around them knowing that they have failed
and what caused that, and just really getting to the core,
right, exactly,
the root of the issue, instead of like using all these substances to mask the symptoms of whatever the actual issue is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's like really where the work is. Put it like this. So if we replace drugs and alcohol with a more less harmful behavior like shopping, right? So it's like, so if drugs and alcohol, some people think, does that mean that every time I drink and I use that's because I'm trying to self-medicate? Well, if every time you're shopping, is it because you're trying to self-medicate?
Right.
Well, like you have to like buy gas and you have to buy shampoo and you have to like buy these things. So not necessarily.
Right.
Right. But like if you're like going out and you're just like, I need to go buy this stuff and I need to like
you need.
Right. Like I'm doing this to fulfill an ulterior motive or intention, then it's something to look at. Right.
Right.
But if someone's like, yo, like you want to kick it and you're just like, yes, it's a different story.
I think that's interesting too. Like to know that most of the time you're not even really present in these rooms or, you know, at the bar, like when you're on that like level of like being drunk or intoxicated with whatever substance, it's not even you experiencing the experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're like so out of it.
Yeah.
To the point where the next day you can't even recall what happened the night before.
Yeah. I mean, it's not about like, I don't drink so I can experience more. I'm drinking so I can experience what I've already experienced less. And so it's like, let's go have fun.
Yeah.
Question is, why can't you just have a good time on your own?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Don't know how.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's something to look at. Right? Yeah. And that's what I feel like people, they'll justify not doing. They'll be like, it's not that deep. It's not a problem.
Right.
I just do it to do it.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Lighten up.
Right. All these things people say. And it's like, that's fine. Right. Something that I encourage people to just like ask themselves is what you're doing getting you closer to or further from what you want for yourself?
Wow.
Right.
That's a really good question.
You know, if it's getting you further from what you want for yourself, then you should probably look at why you keep doing it.
Right.
Right. But if it's aiding you, okay, who am I? I'm not here to tell you what your goals are.
Exactly.
Right. I'm just here to help you get them.
We're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And it's no matter what, I think we all have habits, whether you realize it or not. We are very habitual in a lot of things we do. You may not realize it, but if you were to take an account for like your daily, like you wake up, you probably go do the same things in the same order. You get in the shower, you brush your teeth. You know, it's kind of the same order in certain things. Obviously, you can't control
Drive
your
the same way to
entire day.
work.
But I think we're all pretty habitual more than we, realize. With that being said, I think that it's sometimes so hard for people to walk away from, unhealthy patterns because they don't really have another healthy pattern to replace it with.
You can create a new pattern by doing like actionable work. So doing cognitive work, something that comes to mind is you can do something called anchoring.
Okay.
Right. So we all do it. It's the idiosyncrasies in which come about when we're in a particular setting or environment. And so, what I was told to do early in treatment was really helpful was I want you to think of one of the most amazing moments in your life where you felt like the safest, just serene bliss, right? And then you squeeze your thumb under your fingers and you really feel it. You really know it's there. You really feel the feeling of whatever that beautiful moment is for you. And then you let it go. Okay. Right.
Okay.
And so now, whenever you have a moment of anxiety, fearfulness,
go back to
insecurity, you squeeze your thumbs.
And you anchor yourself.
Right. You anchor yourself back to like, I'm safe, things are fine. Right.
I love that.
Right. A lot of people, it's just a trauma response.
It really is.
Right. And so you're trying to like rewire the pattern that your brain is thinking in. Right. And then you can also do like actionable changes, right? Like you can set yourself up so that you are forced to go about things in a different way, right? Such as, for me, one of the most crucial things that I have to do to start my day off right is I have to lay my clothes out the night before, right? I have to already know what I'm going to wear because otherwise I know getting out of bed is hard for me because I don't want to deal with...
Why make it harder?
Right, exactly. Why make it harder, right? Like have things set up for me, right? Because otherwise the pattern is I lay in bed for another 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And so the night before I'm like, I need to set myself up to break this habit. So I'm going to almost like sow the soil ahead of time. Right. So that way I'm already laying the foundation for what's yet to happen.
Another thing I think is really important is you have to decide, like you have to say, this is what I want. And this is the outcome that I want. And I am deciding to, because I think sometimes we're like in limbo. It's like you say you want it, but like whether or not, like, let's just say like fitness, for example, like you won't have an accountability partner because, you know, they're going to hold you accountable. So you kind of keep yourself in this space where you have the like cushion to not really go full throttle on whatever it was that you said you wanted.
Yeah.
So I think that you're really deciding, okay, this is what I want for myself. I'm really walking away or I'm really walking towards whatever that decision is, like really just deciding.
Yeah. A lot of that comes from my alignment and the hierarchy of values, right? A lot of the times people decide on making a change for themselves, but they're deciding on something that is of a lower place on their hierarchy of values, right? So for example, like, I want to have a better fitness routine. Like I want to be in better shape. Right. So it's like, I'm deciding today I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week.
Right.
Like, okay, great. Right. But they have no real reason to do it.
The why.
Right. So it's like, if you don't have something that this behavior is attached with values wise, you're not going to remain committed. Like January 22nd is the day everyone quits their, their New Year's resolution. Right.
Yeah.
And so when like I'll do, it's like this. So a lot of people say, I want to go to the gym to get in better shape for myself. And logically that makes sense.
Right.
Right. But the crazy thing is, what if this person doesn't think highly of themselves? Right. So it's like, I'm going to do this for myself, but contradictorily, you don't really actually value yourself.
Right.
Right. So then you drop off and you're like, man, I just can't do it.
You just reaffirm the fact that you don't hold yourself to a high standard in the first place.
Exactly. And so to make a decision that the outcome is in alignment with supporting what you most value is going to really aid in you remaining committed. And you see this a lot with people who just like all of a sudden have a kid, right? So like you're just kind of like living your life and your significant other says, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And you say, oh my gosh, like how am I going to make my life happen? And then all of a sudden it totally shifts because you start living for somebody else.
You have a bigger reason.
Right. You have yeah, exactly. And when you can make a decision to fulfill an outcome on something that you really value, then it's like, all right, let's do it, you know? And the other thing that comes to mind as I'm saying this is there's a saying, if you want to take the island, you have to burn the boats.
I love that.
Yeah, right.
Because that's the cushion I'm talking about. Like if you burn the boats, there's no going back. There's no going back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once we do that, it's like, all right, well, I have no other option.
I have no other option.
Right? And that's kind of when things start to change.
You are also an author.
Yeah. Being and Becoming Myself.
Being and Becoming Myself, yes.
A guide to self-understanding. So
can you tell us about the book? Because it seems like a really, really good read.
Yeah, I'd love to. Early in my sobriety, I was a painter, an artist, tattoo artist for a while. And what started to happen was it was unfulfilling, right? Okay. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with my life, my time? Like, not to say that those things don't have value. It just didn't do it for me. And so I thought to myself, well, how many other people are in my position right now? So like, I'm unsure of myself. I don't know what to think about myself. I have no idea what my direction is. I don't know how to remain committed. I don't know how to implement discipline. What would I do? Right? And the answer to me was just like, well, I would try and resort to like a manual. I would try and like seek the answer. So I was like, okay, what if I had the answers that I needed? What would that look like?
Right.
So the book was actually originally going to be titled The Book I Wish My Parents Gave Me.
That's a good title. That's another book.
It's a good title.
That's still another book. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how it like kind of started. And then, so the book is formatted with sections to answer questions such as like, what do I feel like is untrue about myself, but I still believe? What do I feel like is causing me anxiety? What do I feel like is possible for myself, but I haven't gone after yet? This type of stuff, right?
Like a journal
it's
in
like
a way.
Yes, exactly. And so it begins with the understanding that, quite frankly, like if you believe in God, the universe, science, whatever, you're a fraction of that. Right? Because you are a part of whatever initiated everything.
Right.
Right. And so when I can see that, it's like, okay, like I have the energy which created everything in me.
That makes you feel so big.
I know, right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. So what is inhibiting my connection to that in myself? And it's like, what have I been telling myself and believing? What have other people told me and I believed?
Right.
And it's like, okay, what do I need to let go of? Right. And all these limiting beliefs, negative thought patterns, all that type of stuff. So let's clear that away before we start building something new. And then it's like, okay, like what skill sets do you have? Like, what are you interested in? If you could accomplish anything, what would you want to actually accomplish? And just laying out and understanding for the person as an individual and what they're actually interested in. It's like, okay, cool. So like, for example, there's a list of characteristics in the book, and it says something like one of the characteristics is like creative, right?
Okay.
So then the next chapter is, if you feel like you're a creative person, what are some tools that you feel like you could use to express your creativity, right? And so I use the example of a hair dryer. So if you're somebody who is creative,
what would you do with the hair dryer?
Right, exactly. You have all these tools at your disposal that you can use to fulfill a need for somebody else, right? So that's the following section, which is, a lot of people are like, what is my purpose? Chairs are my favorite example. I wish
Okay.
there was a third chair here that neither of us were sitting in.
Okay.
Right.
We'll make
So
make believe there's
right.
one.
So we make a believe a chair
Yeah.
that no one is sitting in
Okay.
is right here.
Uh-huh.
And I would ask you, what is this chair that no one is sitting in making? Why is this chair less valuable than the chair that you're sitting in?
My answer would probably be because I don't really need it, or I'm not sitting in it.
Because you're not sitting in it.
Yeah.
Right. So this chair is valuable because it's supporting somebody else.
Right.
Right. So that is what purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
Purpose is aiding somebody else in an execution of their own ambition.
Ooh, I love that.
Right. And so when I can think about like, okay, so everybody has aspirations in some sense or the other. When I can utilize my gift to fulfill the need of somebody else, I'm executing my purpose.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, great, cool. Right.
Wow.
Now I just need to actually like start to remain committed to actually putting myself in the appropriate environment, building community that fosters that. Right.
Right.
So it's like, okay, cool. So let's say I'm creative. There's tools at my disposal. And now where's the community? I go to a barbershop. Cool. I surround myself with like-minded people.
Right.
And now all of a sudden I'm like building this network of like-minded people I'm feeling a part of. I'm building community. And now I'm executing my purpose. Now all of a sudden I feel fulfilled.
I love how you put it in the book, so it gives people a chance to like write it down, so you can take it out of your brain, and it kind of gives you your own like guide to go back to if you need to and when you need to.
Yeah.
To remind yourself of like, okay, this is what my purpose is, or you keep building and tweaking it.
It's funny to say at the end of the book, it says something like, remember to go back through this.
Right, because you're going to forget,
Yeah.
you're going to start doubting yourself, but it's helpful to have something that is like tangible, that's like, okay, I wrote this and this is what my thoughts were. And whenever you're in that space where you're clear and you need to go back to it, it's helpful to have it like written down. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then one of the last sentiments in it is something like, just as you are a fraction of creation on your own, everyone else is a fraction of creation on their own. And so while you progress on your journey, discovering who you are and becoming who you are, know that for yourself, you are not alone.
You're not.
You're not alone. You have all this intricate connection with all these people all over the world. Right here now is happening for somebody else wherever they are.
Right.
So a lot of times it's like, this isn't going to work out. I'm alone. No one believes me. You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Right.
And there's definitely a lot of people who are going through the exact same thing or have been through the exact same thing. And yeah, we're not alone.
Yeah.
When did you get into your work? I saw you work with NoHo Recovery.
Oh, yeah.
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 Tell us about, I just happen to follow them as well
cool.
on IG. So I thought that was really dope that you do work with them.
Yeah. So NoHo Recovery is an amazing treatment center in North Hollywood. So they are a mental health and substance abuse treatment center.
Okay.
So they work with people trying to, for one, like get them off the street, provide them with housing, sober living. And then they have counselors and therapists, and they have a whole treatment team aiding the clients. So where I come in is I facilitate groups.
Okay.
Right. So 3 times a week I go in and I talk about this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Today I talked about the drama triangle.
What's the drama triangle? I want to hear about it.
So the drama triangle is the cycle that a person or people operate in while in an unhealthy relationship. And so it's 3 archetypes.
Okay.
And so you will be every archetype in the cycle. It's not like you're a Leo and that's just all that you are. So it's the victim, the offender, and the rescuer. And all 3 of these, they operate from a place of insecurity.
Okay.
Right. So the victim is, I'm incapable. You hear it a lot. People who are the victim say, if you had my story, you'd be like me too. Right.
Been there.
Yeah, of course, right?
Been
yeah,
there.
we've all been there. We've all been here, right? This isn't like it's like it's just that when you're in this unhealthy relationship, this is how you will be. The victim is, if you had my story, you'd be like me too.
Okay.
The rescuer says, I'm going to save you so we don't have to look at me.
Okay.
Right. Which is pretty much, I know I have my own things going on, but we don't have to look at that because I'm your savior. Right. I'm helping you. We don't have to worry about me. Right. So this is people pleaser.
Okay.
Right. And then the offender is, let's just focus on you because I can't look at me. And this is the criticizer. Right. And so what happens is that somebody comes into the role in one way or the other, right? So there's a dynamic. So there's the victim and there's the offender.
Okay.
Right. And so it's all built. So the offender will become the victim, and the victim will become the rescuer, and the rescuer will become the offender again.
Okay.
And so I'll give you a practical example. This is the example that I use. So the relationship that I have with my dad is like this, right?
Okay.
So pretty much I wish that my dad would fulfill his role as a father in a different way, right?
Okay.
Let's just leave, right. So what I do is, so I make my dad the victim.
Okay.
Right. And then I go ahead and say, you know what, though? I'm going to call my dad. I'm going to reach out to him. I'm going to be a better son. Right. So I become the rescuer.
Okay.
Right. And so what happens, though, is that my dad is the victim for a reason. Right. Because I've cast these presumptions upon him. His characteristics, whomever he is, has made him the victim. And so he has his dynamic with me, right? He's closed off. He doesn't understand emotions, all this type of stuff.
Okay.
So I go and reach out to him, and I want to build this relationship.
Right.
And it is unfulfilled. And then he no longer is the victim. He is the offender. Because how could you not hear me? How could you not listen to me? How could you not, after all this time, changed? Right. So now he's the offender and I'm the victim.
Okay.
Right.
So is the different is the way this cycle changing based on like perception? Like is it your perception that's changing of like what you're expecting from them and then how you're viewing them, and that's turning them into the offender versus the victim?
So it's a good question. So to break this cycle, you have to change your expectation of them.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that expectation is a huge pillar in what is causing the cycle to continue. Right. So I'm the victim. My dad is the offender. And so what ends up happening is, because I feel hurt, embarrassed, shame, whatever.
Right.
I go, you know what? I'm not going to talk to you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And so what happens is my dad goes from the offender to the victim. And now I go, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then I go from the victim to the offender. And then I say, you know what? I feel bad. I could be a better son. Let me go to the rescuer.
Musical chairs.
Right. Musical chairs.
Yeah.
Right? And so then I say, let me reach out to my dad. My dad is the same. And I say, how dare you? How could you not?
Wow.
After all this time, how are you the same? Right. And this cycle continues. And this happens a lot, especially in people who work on themselves, but their community, their family doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. So I run this group at NoHo Recovery because a lot of the people there, they are our age. They're just human beings they're on the precipice of change.
Okay.
Right. And so they're putting work in on themselves and they're working really hard. And this is what happens. A lot of them, it doesn't really matter where they're from, but they go back home.
Okay.
Right. And they're so ready to show mom and dad, brother, sister, boyfriend, girlfriend.
I am the healer.
I not even that I'm the healer, but that I have healed. Right. That I'm well now. Yeah. And you go back, and they're all the same. right?
Yeah.
They don't trust you still. They don't respect you still.
And that's disappointing.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
Right. And so what is a characteristic of a victim? They feel disappointed.
Disappointed.
Right.
Because they had expectations.
They had an expectation.
Yeah.
Right. How could you? How could you not see me?
Yeah.
How could you not understand how much work I've put in?
That can actually make someone go backwards in their
Absolutely.
healing journey, because it's like, if you're not going to acknowledge all this work that I've put in and you don't see the change, I might as well just keep doing what I was doing in the first place if they don't have the, right support.
Absolutely. So that it goes that way, or then it goes, you know what? I don't care about you either. Right.
And the cycle.
The cycle continues.
Wow.
Yeah. The main thing is that addiction is an attachment disorder.
Yeah.
Right. So just for people watching, right? So you probably heard many times before that the opposite of addiction is connection. Right. So addiction is an attachment disorder.
Okay.
Because my ability to connect is malfunctioning.
Wow.
Right. Attachment disorder is really connection malfunction.
Wow.
Right. And so when I think about it in terms like this is like really what's going on. So
look, break it down.
So I did not come up with this. I'm right. So Gabor Mate, do you know who Gabor Mate is?
I'm not familiar. No.
Okay. So Gabor Mate pretty much he has like breakthrough research on the fact that physical and psychological conditions are the repercussions of the responses to trauma. Right. So like a gut reaction, right, is a good example. Just like holding energy like in your gut because like you quiet yourself because you don't feel like anybody listens to you, and then you get an ulcer. So okay, so addiction is an attachment disorder, and it works like this. When we are a child, right? So people have basic human needs, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
So food, water, shelter, security, relationships, love, and self-expression, right? And so when you're a child, you are pretty much surrounded by people who you're inferior to.
Right.
So you're already kind of inclined to reserve yourself. And so what happens is a child, they reach out in some way to their primary caregiver or their environment to fulfill one of their basic human needs, more than likely safety or connection or security, or security, affection, or love, more so internal stuff, but
got you.
But yeah, like if I give you food and water, you feel a sense of security.
Right.
And so when a child reaches out to receive love, care, affection, security, and it's denied, like, I can't listen to you right now, some sense of neglect, misdirection, the lack of providing of needs, the child goes, okay, then I'll do it myself. And what that looks like is I'll fulfill my own needs by completely eradicating my feeling of that need being unfulfilled. And so this is how that's done. So I am a child and I go, hey, Mom, I want to tell you about my day. And she goes, that's sweet. I can't right now.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay. And then you go to your room and you read. And you're reading and you're disassociating, and now you live in fantasy, and now you're a character in a book where a mother listens to her son. That's okay.
Yeah.
For a 5-year-old.
Right.
It's like, okay, sure, cool, right? There's no harm in that, right? There is dysfunction, but there's not like actual physical detriment harm.
Right.
But so what happens is that feeling of my needs are not being met remains there. As So a child is neglected by their parent.
Okay.
Right. And then they use a coping mechanism like reading, escapism. Maybe they go play with their peers.
Yeah.
And they never address the feeling of
Neglect.
I'm unwanted. And it's like, okay, sure. Right. But then what happens is the child continues to grow up. And they keep trying to fulfill their feeling of
Neglect.
I'm a part. They're trying to fulfill their feeling of I'm a part of my family. My mom loves me. But the way that they're doing it is I'm reading books or I'm surrounding myself with people like me. Right. And they're like, but I am still hurting on the inside. Why is this not working? It worked when you were 5.
Right.
But now when you're 17, it doesn't work anymore. And you don't understand why. Right. And so what do? You try doing what worked, then more. Right. And how do you do that? You start drinking and using drugs.
And I think that even to add on to what you're saying, like, it's beautiful if you do know if like that child is, I think in a beautiful world, like they're aware that, you know what I mean? They had the neglect or, cause I think sometimes like growing up, you don't even realize these issues are like, you don't even realize you're, you know, being affected like you are. And then you grow up as you're saying, and it's just like masked and like kind of hidden inside of you. And you're going through the motions of what you're saying without even realizing, like, why am I choosing partners like this? Or why do I feel like I have to always be in a relationship and can't be alone? Like, I feel like sometimes it comes out without you even being able to get to the bottom of like why or where it stems from.
Yeah. And so the illusion is that the pain and suffering stems from neglect.
Yeah.
That is the illusion, but that is not where your pain and suffering is coming from. Your pain and suffering is stemming from you not advocating for yourself, which then caused you to become neglected. Because
but you didn't have the power or awareness or the
because you're 5.
You're 5.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
This person to you
She's
looks
a little
like
bit of you
against a giant.
them.
You're not going to say to your mom, "No, I really need to talk to you right now."
Right.
You're going to say, "You're going to say,
computer
okay,
down or whatever you're doing, and
right.
look
You're
at
not
me."
going to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't even have that level of like confidence or.
Right. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what do? We act out, join gangs, drugs and alcohol, and all this type of stuff. And then there is this sense of awareness of my dad neglected me. Right now in social media and in today's time, like you'd be very like just kind of aloof to not notice that like you have some underlying issue.
Right. There's so many resources and people talking about all these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what is not being talked about as much is the alternative circumstance that you wish had happened but didn't, which is causing your pain and suffering. Right.
So that expectation.
So it's the lack of the fulfillment of what you really wanted to have happen. Like, yes, there's an expectation, but that's actually what's happening.
So do you feel like if someone were to go kind of like reframe what they expected versus what it was and just become at peace with that, they can start to get to the solving of this issue? Or like, how would somebody like where would they start? Because this is like, I feel like I've had my own struggles in this area and that I still to this day, it's like, I feel like it's going to be like a never ending journey of like, man, like, you know, just different, trying to get out of that victim seat and just, you know, take control of like your parents were who they were. Your ex was who they were. You were who, you know, we all played our roles. We all played our part and just becoming, you know, at peace with that.
Yeah. This is what I would say.
Yeah.
So at whatever period of your life, you feel like this pain happened and you did not express your feelings that you wanted to express then. You have that version of yourself, right? Maybe you're 5, maybe you're 20, right? And it's this stimulant for your pain and suffering. And so now the version of yourself who is having the awareness of thinking about that version of yourself, right? Begins to be the caretaker for that version of yourself that never stood up for themselves. And so you say to yourself, I got you.
Yeah.
Come here. And I want you to know that you are safe enough to express your feelings that you never got to feel.
Right.
That you never let other people know how you felt. And it's not going to happen when you're hanging out with a bunch of people. It's going to happen when you really push aside all the bullshit, when when you really push aside like the drinking, the using, all these little idiosyncrasies,
like
all the walls. You push away all the walls.
Yeah.
And your feeling is raw.
Yeah.
And you say to yourself, I forgive you. I want you to feel how you wanted to feel then.
Yeah.
And feel that safely. Right. And having the guidance of somebody else is one of the best ways to do that, because I'm going to push you.
Right.
I'm going to push you past that feeling that is causing you to resist. Because it's just past that point of resistance.
The breakthrough.
That is the breakthrough.
Wow.
Right. And so it's uncomfortable. It's extremely uncomfortable. But when I can pull back all these layers and I can say to myself, like, let's just keep the analogy of a child trying to stand up for themselves,
right,
but didn't. Right. So let's say a person comes to me and they say, hey, I feel really insecure when I'm around other people. Say, okay. When have you, what makes you feel this way? Well, I just feel like people are better than me. I feel like people just, have, the priorities in line, and they're putting themselves first and I'm putting myself second. Okay. Why do you feel like that? Well, because I just feel like I've never put myself first. Right. You have to switch it up after a couple.
Okay.
So you say, because on my Instagram, there's the 5 whys and everything, right? Which is super beneficial. But right at the end, you have to pretty much punch the person in the face. You do the 5 whys and then you punch them in the face with a question.
Got you. Okay.
Right. So let's say I feel insecure about myself. So I feel insecure. Why? Because I feel like people put themselves first. Why? Because I feel like people are better than me. Why? Because I feel like no one cares about me. Why? Because I just feel like my needs aren't being met. Why? Who never put your needs first? Everybody? Oh, okay. When was the first time your needs weren't met?
That's where it starts to get real.
Yeah. And then that person's going to think of a time. And what did you tell yourself about yourself when that moment happened? That I'm not good enough. That nobody wants me. Is that true? I don't know. Yes or no? Is that true? No. Can you be there for yourself? I think so.
Yes or no?
Yes or no? Yes. Good for you. Good for you. And you let that new person out into the world. You said, then go do that now.
Right.
Right. And then what starts to happen, it's not black and white, like on and off, but periodically this person starts to stand up for themselves.
Wow.
And then they start to confirm to themselves that they are worth it, because they were never standing up for themselves because they were afraid of the repercussions of what would happen if they did. And then they start to experience what those repercussions are, and they realize that they can they can withstand them. And they can say, oh my gosh, people aren't going to run away.
Right.
When I express my needs, people aren't going to leave me.
And even if they do, like if you expressing yourself and being true to yourself and expressing your needs makes anybody like walk away from that, then they weren't your people. Like
Absolutely.
really being okay with that. I'm sure you help a lot of people that come through those doors at NoHo Recovery.
I think I do. I have seen people have transformative experiences at NoHo Recovery, where, and sometimes it happens in a group, but the majority of the time it happens week after week after week, and it's little signs.
Yeah.
People saying, I went out and I applied for a job today, right? I went out and I went for a hike today, right? And this is simultaneously the same person who was like getting high every day.
Wow.
Like just had no self-confidence,
no outlook,
nothing,
wow.
right? And then for them to say, I went and got a job. Because the thing about getting a job is that what you have to endure to actually go out and go get a job, you have to assess your skills. You have to see what your worth is. You have to have optimism that like things might actually,
you have to be able to take rejection
a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And so for a person to say like, I'm now like stepping into society,
that's big.
It's huge.
That's big.
And I think a lot of people, they think that these transformative experiences are meant to happen almost instantaneously. Well, I'm sober now. I'm not drinking anymore. Right? I'm taking my medication.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, you got to
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. What would you tell anybody, like, as far as someone who may be struggling, like, with addiction, who's watching, like, what resources would you like, do you feel like treatment is necessary, or would you recommend that to everyone, just like off the bat, or?
Yeah. So for one, I needed to get out of where I was. I needed a new environment. I needed to go like I need to get away from where I know I can drink and use.
Yeah.
And like that's
taking the boats away.
Yeah, exactly. You burn
taking
the boats.
The boats away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I know the homie will front me a sack.
Yeah.
I know the liquor store doesn't check my ID. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Like, so I was like, okay. So in that sense, treatment is extremely valuable. Right. But treatment is like the gym.
Okay.
Right. So there's all these amazing resources, but if you're not going to utilize them, like you're not going to see the benefits. So like, and I'm speaking in terms of like, if it is a quality treatment center, there's a variety of treatment centers, right? So let's say you go to a really good treatment center where you have one-on-one counseling and groups and community and other recreational activities.
Yeah.
Like, and you're actually utilizing those things, because what's going to happen is, remember, addiction is an attachment disorder. So I'm drinking and using because I feel disconnected from the world. I feel people don't want me. I feel like,
and this makes me feel connected.
Yes. So when I'm surrounding myself with like-minded individuals, people are actually showing up for me and caring for me. They're not pushing me away. They're bringing me in, and then they're also working with me to develop my future. Like those things on their own are extremely beneficial.
Right.
But those things collectively are indirectly telling me that I matter. Right. Oh my God. You don't even know me. And you're listening to me.
Right.
My family doesn't listen to me. I just met you yesterday.
Yeah.
And you want to know what I'm going through.
Right.
Right. And it's just like people.
You feel valuable. You feel wanted, needed, seen.
Yes.
I think that's the part a lot of people struggle with, is feeling seen, and just like you matter to somebody.
It's all so interconnected.
Yeah.
Like, so if my purpose is fulfilled by the implementation of my skills so that I can provide somebody else with their needs, but there's nobody else in my life.
Right.
How am I going to fulfill any needs?
You just enlightened me on that. I have to reevaluate my life after this episode. Your purpose is a part of whether you're there to teach them or they're there to teach you, or just, how you guys are just connected. It's all a part of the purpose, your purpose.
Yeah.
I'm learning that.
Yeah. I think a really good piece of advice that I got a long time ago is that I'll save the backstory, but the purpose, the premise of the message was that an unhealthy ego excludes. A healthy ego includes.
Wow.
So when you're thinking about like, should I be doing this or not? Is this like a part of my path, my purpose? Question you just have to ask yourself is, am I doing this to include or to exclude? And if you're doing it to include, you're fine.
I don't know if you ever had this like feeling of like paranoia where it's like, okay, like I can't do anything with anyone that might send me backwards. But it's like when you really develop like that real confidence in yourself and you can be in any room, like you can take me to any bar and I can hang out with whoever because I'm confident that I have full control over my being and what I choose to do and indulge in and partake in. So I'm not like, I feel like only when you're in this, insecure space with yourself are you so paranoid about who sent you, what do you want from me? And like, you're not going to take me backwards, but no one can like take you anywhere that you don't, choose to go.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think about the saying that what sinks a ship, it's not its size, but how much water it lets inside. And so it's like, it doesn't matter like who you are. It's how you are letting your environment affect you. Right. And so if you're secure, if you're locked up tight and you're like, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
I
think that just comes down to still like learning to trust self and just develop that confidence,
Absolutely.
It's a journey. It's all a journey. We're all on our own journeys of like realization, self-realization.
Yeah. I mean, what else am I doing here?
Yeah.
Like guiding people home and all that shit too. But
yeah, like it's all about self. If this ain't right, you can't really help anybody else.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like maybe I could help them, but I'm not going to be fulfilled, and I'm going to be sick. And like at the end of the day, like I'm still going to sleep with myself. So like I have a friend who, my coworker, he was like pretty much like raised in the whole treatment field.
Okay.
Like his mom owns treatment centers. So his whole life he has been
just around
helping people, like helping people every day. And he's like, I can't do it anymore because I've been neglecting myself.
Wow.
For the betterment of other people. And so it's like stereotypically you would think that this person would be thriving.
Right.
Like, oh my God, you're being the most altruistic person on the planet. But he's like, but I'm neglecting myself.
Yeah.
Right. So now he's going to barber school,
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And his change of disposition is visceral. Like you can like really tell like he's so much happier now.
Wow. It's not just focused on everything around him.
Right. Exactly. And
I love that for him.
Yeah, me too. And so it's like yes, care for others, but remember that you have to fulfill who you are first. Otherwise,
you have nothing to give.
You have nothing.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Right. Exactly.
I'm so glad you were able to come join us.
I'm so glad I was here. This is amazing.
Yeah,
I love
I'm
it so
so glad
much.
that you were able to come. Is there anything you would love to leave the viewers with? Any last words?
I would just say, don't discredit yourself. Like you are more capable than you believe yourself to be.
Yes.
Right. Just tap into that, like the hardest pill to swallow is that it's your fault. Right. But the most empowering pill to swallow is that it's your fault.
Yep.
Because then like a millionaire, he's a millionaire because it's his fault.
Right.
Like
you can change it.
Right. Like all these people who we see who are living their best lives, it's their fault.
I love that. Accountability.
Exactly.
Yeah. People are afraid of it though. It's a scary place. It's a scary seat to know that you're the one like making or breaking, creating, destroying, you're the one. And sometimes I think we want to put it off on someone else to like be our savior when it's you. But that's a lot of power. It's a beautiful thing once you tap into it.
Yeah. I think it's really the starting point.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
me.
coming and just being a part of this and sharing your expertise, your knowledge, your journey.
I appreciate it.
Where can they find you at? Like if they want to get your books?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Elliott G. Paulson. You can find my book by searching Elliott Paulson on Amazon. And you can reach out to me and say, hello, have any questions? I'm happy. I do one-on-one coaching. So if you're like, yo, I like this guy, I need to talk
He's
to him
amazing.
some more.
You definitely got to check out his IG. He's teaching, got the whiteboard, like breaking it down. I love that. I got a whiteboard at home and my friend always laughs at me because I'm always like
That's the
writing my
best.
little notes, but
Yeah,
you have the
need it right there.
whiteboard and you're like, really, I love it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of the Don't Recycle Project. Please recycle your trash, not your trauma. Until next time, I am Pink Rose. Peace.